Chapter 23, Elimination Battle Royale. Jockey Island, December 23rd, 1998. Using her magic, Inyana broadcasts her voice into the minds of everyone on the island. Our tournament has gathered far too many interested parties for us to accommodate. In order for us to proceed any further, your numbers must be culled. Currently, over 200 are still vying for the sacred Banukaska. I need that number cut down to, let's say, 32. She pauses, looking down at Jake and grinning. I almost forgot. There are a number of young humans here on Jockey, where they do not belong. Whoever can kill these humans is guaranteed a spot in the tournament. Hui walks over, still slightly injured from his battle with Descarina. I have already wounded him. What if someone else finishes him off? Then he was never worthy of our ire. She glares at the Grand General. If you had killed him, you would have risked bringing down the wrath of that damned Yazata upon us. Do you really fear that traitorous scum that much? You would be wise to have a healthy fear of beings far more powerful than yourself, Inyana cautions. Knowing where you stand in relation to powers such as that is crucial to self-preservation. Do not disappoint me by dying because of your overconfidence, Hui. Do not disgrace my memory of you and die before facing me, Yamura, Hui thinks. Survive to fight me in the tournament finals. The beach has become a bloodbath. Demons and creatures of every kind and size attack each other with ruthless abandon. Many of them focusing on the humans first, assuming them to be easy prey and hoping to gain the guaranteed spot. Jake and the others are pushed back on the defensive quickly. Stay within the barrier, Allura shouts, raising a magical shield of pink-colored energy to hold the enemies back. She kneels, drawing a small spell array in the sand. Biting one of her fingers, she uses her blood to activate the spell. A dome of energy swells out around their group, preventing the creatures from advancing on their position. Yamura takes control of their union in a flash of black light, dashing through the barrier and out into the middle of the fray. Ignoring the protests of the mages, the Sakari furiously attacks any enemies that are within his reach. Yamura gives no ground, hacking off limbs and tearing open enemy torsos and throats. Severely outnumbered, the demons and creatures swarm over Yamura, and he begins to take on wounds. The mages attempt to clear out the crowd, firing bursts of magical energy into the group. Another being joins the fray, but instead of attacking Yamura, he instead turns his claws on the demons and monsters. Giving Yamura some breathing room, the two fighters work together to kill dozens more enemies. The figure looks like an older man in his 60s, with long braided white hair and a black beard and mustache. He is surprisingly muscular and moves just as fast as the younger Sakari. Are you really the legendary General Yamura? The man known as Mishi asks. You look human. Conjuring a deadly red ribbon of energy, Mishi whips it around him to cut enemy forces into bloody pieces. As do you, and I am not so easily fooled by appearances, Yamura says as he shoves his arm through the gut of a bull-headed demon. I would say that you are also Sakari, but I know that to be impossible. I owe my ability to mask my aura to you and Hui, Mishi says. He notices Yamura taking several hits from a pair of horned demons before managing to kill them. Why are you holding back? If you draw this battle out, you will increase your chances of making a mistake. This is the most crucial phase of the tournament. The more enemies we are able to kill, the more strength each of us will amass before the tournament proper begins. Yamura slashes through the throat of a large, demon-like creature with bull horns called an Oni. Worry about yourself. I have centuries of combat experience. I am well aware of your exploits, Mishi replies, locking a demon in a headlock and twisting violently. That is why I know you need to step up your efforts. You will not be able to defeat Hui if you fight at this level. Yamura hisses, kicking a demon in the chest and knocking him into a group of several others. I am not concerned with Hui. While I trained and spilled my blood and sweat, he lavished as Marduk's favorite lackey. I will defeat him no matter what. Have you forgotten what your sister has said already? Only 32 will be allowed to enter the tournament. By sending everyone after you and your allies, we can now sit back and wait and watch as the struggle unfolds without him. If we can eliminate all of the lesser creatures on this island, we can make Hui pay for his hubris. How so? Yamura asks, grabbing a demon's arm and smashing his fist into the creature's face. A modified form of the seal technique is active on this island. All across Jockey, anyone killed bestows their essence and abilities upon their killer. I know this already, Yamura growls, ducking beneath the claw slash of a Therian creature and pivoting to drive his own fist up into the creature's gut. So, the point of this game is to see who can collect the most energy, Mishi says. This round will not last long. After the herd is thinned, the battles will become much more fierce. Can you sense how many competitors remain? Yamura asks, the Therian creature falling dead at his feet. No more than 50. Likely less. The majority of beings on this island were no stronger than an enhanced human. Those that remain are much more powerful. Jake takes control so that Yamura can regain some of his stamina. Yeah, like the literal goddess we saw coming in on the newest boat. Mishi nods. There's another that is even stronger. He has been keeping a low profile so not to draw attention, but I sensed him when I first arrived. He is the one we should look out for the most. Jake eyes the man suspiciously. I understand an occasional team-up against a common enemy, but I don't intend to carry on a partnership with someone I just met that may or may not be a monster of some kind himself, all the way to the tournament. I brought my own allies, and even they, at some point, are going to have to fight each other or me to advance. This tournament is only going to have one winner, and that's me. Mishi dismisses the youth with one hand. Winning the tournament is not my reason for coming here. Neither is the claiming of the sacred Banukaska. The true organizer of this competition, the one who has manipulated you and the Sakari, the one who raised Inyana from the dead. Cedrion, Jake growls, balling his fists. Mishi nods. I have my own business to settle with him. I know that he will be watching the tournament very closely. When the time is right, I will be the one to remove him from this and every other world. While I share your enthusiasm and hatred for Cedrion, I'm roasting that turkey as soon as I'm done killing Huyin and Yana. Mishi laughs. Handle them first. Then we'll see where we stand. Deal, Jake nods. But if you die before then, I'm going to be very disappointed. Provost Zuberi crushes 2 demons with a conjured stone fist, while Provost Rom catches 2 just beyond them with Aguinestra fire. Dani fights using only her fists and feet, using the backup of her friends to gain a precious recharge on her bracers. Allura breathes heavily, her chest rising and falling rapidly with exhaustion, as she tries to maintain the barrier. I can't keep this up much longer, Allura whispers. Dani falls back to her friend's side, checking on her. Allura struggles to remain conscious. Rest now. You did amazing. We've managed to clear out enough of them that we can fight a lot easier thanks to you. To the left of the mages and Jake, Mishi is now in a standoff with several demonic creatures. The first to step forward is a gray-skinned demoness. With a thin frame and hairless, almost sickly appearance, she seems frail and weak. Thin, bat-like wings are folded behind the female's back. Unlike a bat, however, the wings are separate appendages from her arms. Howling, the Olitao demon shriek is supersonic and causes everyone to cover their ears in pain. Sabatine, the demoness, lunges with a punch, but Mishi dodges, ducking underneath the blow and striking with an uppercut of his own. The demon shouts out in pain, attempting to drop her elbow down onto Mishi. The older fighter turns, catching Sabatine's elbow and kicks her in the chest without letting go of her arm. The force of the kick rips off Sabatine's arm in a horrifying geyser of dark fluids. Mishi tosses the arm aside and keeps his eyes fixed on his opponent. Shrieking with a high-pitched howl, Sabatine jets high up into the air and concentrates energy into the thin membranes that compose her leathery wings. Screaming, Sabatine flaps her wings and sends hundreds of energy quills down at Mishi in a relentless barrage. The quills shred the ground, exploding on contact and covering the area in thick smoke. As the smoke clears, Mishi is revealed unharmed behind the protection of an energy shield. Furious, Sabatine forces her energy into the tips of her wings, releasing a crescent-shaped blast. Throwing his right arm out and opening his hand, Mishi braces his wrist with his other hand and holds the attack at bay with a strong invisible force. Ritan, Basuto, Mishi shouts, repelling the energy back at the originator with multiplied strength. Sabatine is unable to evade the attack, and is cut in half diagonally by the crescent, before she and the energy detonate in the air. A muscular and seemingly human-looking demon steps forward next. The only visible differences Mishi can see are the shark-like fins on his arms and backs of his legs. Inside of the demon's mouth are multiple rows of dagger teeth, and a jaw that can dislocate to swallow prey larger than his own head. This race of demons is called Achelios, and they are semi-aquatic predators and extremely vicious. Before Mishi can react, the demon called Karasura rushes him with a headbutt. The attack knocks Mishi back with blood trailing from a gash on his forehead. Karasura strikes quickly, hammering him with dozens of lightning-fast jabs. Mishi tries to fight back, but his opponent evades him like a blur, striking him again with a hard shot to the face. Stumbling, Mishi pivots to retaliate, but is kicked in the chest. With a furious roar, black energy erupts from Mishi's body and surrounds him with a vortex of swirling power. Karasura leaps back, shielding his face from the rippling waves of energy. The black energy becomes dancing flames that glows ominously. Mishi pushes off the ground, thrusting towards Karasura with increased speed. The demon is able to keep up with him, blocking each attack, but it soon proves to be much more difficult than before. Mishi finally connects with a right hook at the same time as Karasura successfully delivers a shot to the ribs. Both fighters break off to catch their breath. Jake senses the black energy spike nearby and turns his attention towards Mishi's battle. "Did you sense that?" Yamura nods. "It feels like the black flame." "That is impossible. No one in this world should know the technique other than me." Mishi stumbles back, suddenly hit by a pulse of invisible energy released by Karasura powering up. Pushed back, Mishi begins to pull his energy together, charging up for a more powerful offensive. Karasura watches closely for an opening, knowing that he cannot afford to be hit by the attack. "Basaya!" Mishi shouts, firing the concentrated energy in a single blast of black fire. Karasura dodges Mishi's blast and speeds in close, striking him in the face. Mishi's back hits the ground, but he quickly rolls over and pushes off into the air to land behind his enemy. Drawing his energy back into his fingertips, Mishi forms fiery black claws and slashes across the back of the demon. Turning, Karasura's arm transforms into an organic blade of hardened keratin, with which he blocks Mishi's attack. Surprised, Mishi's reaction speed is slowed just for enough for Karasura to deliver a jab to the gut. Following up, the demon slashes his sword arm diagonally down through Mishi's chest. Blood sprays outward, Mishi stumbling backward. Holding tightly to his wound, Mishi grimaces in pain. Seeing his opponent weakened, Karasura blitzes with a fury of fast attacks. Completely overwhelmed, Mishi is unable to do little more than take each shot, with increasing damage. Mishi tries to dodge and counter, but his speed is vastly inferior to the demon. Attempting to buy himself some space, Mishi fires a burst of black energy, but Karasura cuts through the blast with his sword arm and delivers a powerful side kick to the chest that knocks Mishi to his back. Mishi crawls to his feet, chest rising and falling rapidly. Bloody gashes litter his exposed chest. The black flame flickers, remaining manifest. Karasura appears next to him in an instant, driving a fist into Mishi's side. Mishi screams, feeling several ribs cracking. "You're finished," Karasura says, lowering his sword arm. "Your road ends today, strange human." Mishi shakily holds a hand out, releasing another pulse of black energy. "Vasaya!" Sidestepping the blast with ease, Karasura shakes his head in pity. "Was that all you had left? Was that your final push?" Karasura rushes with his superior speed, bringing his sword arm down diagonally to finish the cut he previously started. Knowing that he is too slow to dodge, Mishi allows the attack to begin contact in order to bring his opponent within reach where he cannot evade. Grabbing Karasura by the shoulders, Mishi repeatedly headbutts the demon until he is driven to a knee. Blood pours down both fighters' faces, but Mishi continues to bash his head against Karasura, again and again. Karasura's eyes roll back in his head, and his body goes limp. Mishi continues headbutting, causing the demon's frontal bone to begin to crack, and cause cranial hemorrhaging and brain swelling. Finally, Mishi releases Karasura and staggers back several steps, disoriented. The toll of so many hits to the head reverberates throughout Mishi's body, and he fights to remain standing. On the ground, Karasura does not move. Without warning, one of Descarina's tails wraps around the demon's neck and lifts him into the air. "Who are you?" Mishi growls. "And why are you trying to steal my victory?" "Trying?" Descarina laughs, piercing one of her tails through Karasura's back and out his chest. "More like succeeding. You hesitated going for the kill. This contest is not for the faint of heart." Mishi balls his fists in anger. He needed that boost of energy to help recover the damage he suffered fighting the demon. Unfortunately, picking a fight with that woman would not be wise. At this moment, Descarina is stronger than him. With his fatigue and the condition of his battle-worn body, Mishi would not be able to survive their battle. Amidst the chaos of the fights all across Jockey Island, Alyssa Tarum faces off against a towering monstrosity known as a Malak, a hulking figure with armored skin and jagged molten claws. The Malak's breath is hot and sulphurous, its eyes glowing like embers in a dark forge. The Malak roars, its deep, guttural voice shaking the ground as it charges at Alyssa, with astonishing speed for its size. The creature swings one of its massive claws in a sweeping arc, aiming to cleave Alyssa in two. She responds with grace, her lithe form darting to the side with a blur of motion. Her sword flashes in a precise defensive manner, parrying the attack with a metallic clang that sends sparks flying. Alyssa pivots effortlessly, her sword tracing a deadly arc as she slashes at the Malak's exposed flank. The blade bites into the creature's armored side, causing it to snarl in pain. The Malak retaliates with a counterattack, its claws moving in a flurry of savage strikes. Alyssa weaves between the blows, her agility unmatched, as she ducks under one swipe and sidesteps another. With a fluid motion, Alyssa leaps forward, using the momentum to deliver a powerful thrust into a joint in the Malak's armor. The blade penetrates, eliciting a roar of anguish from the creature. She spins on her heel, her sword sweeping in an arc that cuts through the Malak's defenses and opens a deep gash across its chest. The Malak, now enraged and wounded, unleashes a burst of fiery breath. Alyssa anticipates the attack, dropping into a low roll that carries her out of the flame's reach. As she rises, she uses the opportunity to close the distance between them. With a swift, controlled movement, she strikes at the base of the Malak's neck, severing a crucial muscle and forcing it to stagger backward. The creature's once mighty roars become guttural moans of defeat as Alyssa presses her advantage. She dodges another wild swing, moving with fluid precision. Her blades move with lethal accuracy, slashing through the Malak's limbs and torso, each strike designed to weaken and disarm the beast. Finally, Alyssa spots an opening. With a determined look, she leaps onto the Malak's shoulder, using her opponent's bulk for leverage. From this vantage point, she drives her sword down with a powerful overhead strike, targeting the creature's vulnerable head. The blade cleaves through the Malak's thick hide and strikes true, piercing down through its skull. The Malak lets out one last, echoing roar before collapsing to the ground, defeated. Alyssa lands gracefully beside the fallen beast, her sword gleaming with a mixture of blood and triumph. She takes a moment to catch her breath, surveying the battlefield with sharp, focused eyes as she prepares for the next challenge in this deadly free-for-all. Danny and Hlaguor now find themselves facing a menacing opponent. A towering creature known as a Gorgath. Monstrosity with serpentine scales, multiple limbs ending in wicked claws, and a maw lined with rows of razor-sharp teeth. The Gorgath's presence exudes a palpable aura of menace, and its eyes glow with a predatory gleam as it charges at the duo. The battle begins with the Gorgath lunging forward, its multiple limbs flailing in a chaotic barrage of strikes. Danny dodges to the side, her agility allowing her to narrowly avoid the Gorgath's slashing claws. Hlaguor, on the other hand, raises her hands, her fingers weaving intricate patterns in the air. She conjures a protective barrier of shimmering light. The Gorgath's claws slam against the barrier, sending shockwaves through the air, but the barrier holds firm. Hlaguor's eyes are intense, focusing on maintaining the shield while Danny rushes forward, with a sword scavenged from one of their previous engagements. Danny's blade meets one of the Gorgath's claws in a burst of sparks, the clash ringing out across the battlefield. She twists her wrist, redirecting the blow and slicing through the creature's defenses with a determined strike. Despite inflicting damage, Danny curses under her breath that she was unable to enchant the weapon first. Once more, the handicap of having no magic power is made painfully apparent. The Gorgath howls in anger, its serpentine tail whipping around to catch Danny off guard. She leaps into the air, narrowly escaping the sweeping attack, and lands deftly on her feet. As Danny moves out of the way, Hlaguor's barrier flickers, and she redirects her magic to launch a series of missile-like bursts of arcane energy at the Gorgath. The missiles streak through the air, each impact creating explosions of magical force that shakes the creature and forces it to stagger. Danny uses this distraction to her advantage. She darts in, her sword flashing in rapid, precise strikes, aimed at the Gorgath's underbelly and joints. Her blade cuts through the creature's scales with each strike, causing it to roar in pain and thrash wildly. The Gorgath retaliates by unleashing a stream of toxic breath, but Hlaguor swiftly conjures a swirling vortex of wind to deflect the noxious fumes away from Danny. The creature, now visibly wounded and enraged, tries to close in on Danny, its mouth gaping wide to deliver a devastating bite. Danny rolls to the side, narrowly avoiding the bite, and with a determined shout, she channels all of her remaining strength into a concentrated strike. She slashes upward with a powerful arc, slicing through the Gorgath's maw and severing its head with a final decisive blow. The Gorgath collapses, its massive form falling heavily to the ground, and Danny stands over the fallen beast, panting heavily. Concerned, Hlaguor moves to Danny's side, casting a worried glance at her injured friend. Danny wipes sweat and blood from her brow, her eyes scanning the battlefield for any further threats. Butler and Sinnoh find themselves facing a nightmarish foe, a monstrous creature called a Throck, a hulking brutish entity covered in armor-like plates and armed with a pair of enormous spiked mauls. The Throck's eyes gleam with a predatory intelligence as it charges toward the mages with a ground-shaking roar. The battle begins with the Throck's maul swinging down in a vicious arc. Butler, who tries to maintain his distance, quickly raises a shield of shimmering energy to block the incoming strikes. The impact reverberates through the barrier, but it holds firm. Sinnoh, standing behind him, is already preparing for the counterattack. The GX parasite within him adds an extra layer of unnatural agility and power to his magic. Sinnoh summons a swirling vortex of dark energy that wraps around the Throck, attempting to restrict its movements. The Throck roars in frustration as the dark tendrils constrict, but it thrashes violently to break free. Butler seizes the opportunity, unleashing a barrage of Agnestra fire blasts. Each fiery blast streaks through the air and impacts the Throck's armored plating, detonating with explosive force. The Throck, now visibly enraged and disoriented, charges forward with renewed fury, its mauls swinging with unpredictable ferocity. Sinnoh, his eyes glowing with the dark intensity, channels the GX parasite's power to enhance his spells. He conjures a massive wave of shattery tendrils that lash out at the Throck, gripping its limbs and attempting to drag it down. Butler supports with a series of precision strikes, launching powerful concentrated bolts of energy at the creature's exposed joints. The combined onslaught of magical forces pushes the Throck to stagger, its movements becoming more erratic and desperate. The Throck retaliates with a ground-shaking stomp that sends shockwaves through the battlefield. Butler is thrown off balance, but he quickly recovers and raises a protective barrier just in time to shield both himself and Sinnoh from the crushing force. Sinnoh, using his enhanced speed, darts around the Throck, weaving through its clumsy attacks and delivering a series of powerful magical blasts aimed at its underbelly. With the Throck weakened and its defenses compromised, Sinnoh channels a devastating spell. His hands glow with dark, crackling energy as he focuses all of his remaining power into a single, concentrated beam of destructive force. The beam pierces through the Throck's armored hide, driving deep into its core and causing it to let out a final agonized roar before collapsing to the ground. Sinnoh's eyes, still glowing with the residual power of the GX parasite, flicker with a mixture of relief and satisfaction as he surveys the aftermath of their battle. Despite fighting the creature together, only the fighter that delivers the killing blow gains the boost bestowed upon them by the power of Sealed Demon. Butler is disappointed, but he knows there are plenty of other foes out there to face off against. "That was intense," Butler says, his voice tinged with exhaustion. "Thanks for having my back." "Anytime," Sinnoh replies, his voice steady but carrying a hint of dark satisfaction. "Let's keep moving. There's no telling what else we'll face." Zaya, running from one battle to the next, quickly rearranges the magical runes on her sword with a new enchantment. It isn't long before she finds herself facing a formidable opponent, a towering, brutish creature known as a Grullax, a massive bull-like demon with thick, leathery hide and horns that curve menacingly. The Grullax roars as it charges, its heavy footfalls shaking the ground. Zaya immediately taps into her sword's enchantments, the runes glowing with a soft, ethereal light. As the Grullax charges, she performs a swift, graceful spin, raising her sword to deflect the creature's incoming attack. The Grullax swings its massive club-like fists, and Zaya's sword glows with a protective aura that absorbs the impact, creating a dazzling burst of light. With a precise motion, Zaya unleashes a series of slashing strikes, imbued with magical energy. Each cut slices through the air with a trail of shimmering light, the sword's enhancements amplifying the force of her blows. The Grullax tries to block with its tough hide, but the magical sword cuts through, leaving deep gashes and causing it to stagger. The Grillex retaliates with a sweeping swipe of its horns, attempting to impale Xayah. She nimbly dodges to the side and counters with a series of quick, precise strikes aimed at its exposed sides. Her sword, still glowing with a blue light, arcs through the air, carving through the demon's defenses and drawing streams of dark Icarus blood. In response, the Grillex roars in fury and swings its massive fists with crushing force. Xayah, relying on her agility, leaps into the air and performs a mid-air twirl, her sword flashing as she strikes down from above. The blow lands squarely on the Grillex's head, stunning it momentarily. Taking advantage of the opening, Xayah focuses her energy and channels a powerful spell through her sword. She raises it high, and a wave of magical energy erupts from the blade, cascading towards the Grillex in the form of a brilliant razor-sharp crescent. The wave slices through the demon's hide with explosive force, sending it reeling backward. The Grillex, now severely injured and its movements slowing, attempts one last desperate charge. Xayah, with a serene expression, steps aside and performs a precise horizontal slash that cleaves through the Grillex's remaining defenses. The demon collapses to the ground. Defeated and exhausted, Xayah stands over the fallen Grillex, her sword still glowing softly as the magical runes fade. She takes a deep breath, her expression a mixture of focus and relief, before she plunges the blade downward through the top of the Grillex's skull. The dense jungle buzzed with life, a thick canopy overhead casting shadows over the soft earth below. The Varkalak king, Noryx Barian, prowled through the undergrowth, his senses heightened. His sharp, lupine features were tense, his eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. The jungle air was heavy with humidity, thick and oppressive, but Noryx moved with lethal grace. He was a predator hunting another predator. Ahead, a rustling sound broke through the natural rhythm of the jungle. A low, guttural sound rumbled from Noryx's chest. He knew the prey was near. His claws flexed as he pushed aside the ferns and underbrush, stepping into a small clearing bathed in moonlight. The earth here was soft and freshly disturbed, a telltale sign that the Aswang had recently been feeding. A hunched figure lurked at the edge of the clearing, its back turned to Noryx. The Aswang was in its monstrous form. Its skin was stretched taut over its wiry frame, its limbs long and sinewy. Its sharp, blood-stained teeth gleamed in the dim light. It was feasting on the remains of a recent kill. The bones of a jungle animal discarded at its feet. A faint, sickening stench filled the air. Noryx's eyes narrowed. He had no patience for the Aswang's vile rituals. With a low snarl, he launched himself forward, moving faster than any human eye could track. The Aswang sensed the danger at the last moment, whirling around just as Noryx's claws slashed through the air. The creature dodged, its elongated limbs allowing it to move with an unnatural, almost insect-like speed. The two predators squared off, circling each other in the clearing. The Aswang's face was twisted and grotesque, with hollow eyes that gleamed with malevolent intelligence. It hissed, its long tongue flicking out between jagged teeth, tasting the air. Noryx growled in return, his muscles coiled and ready to strike. Without warning, the Aswang lunged, his clawed hands reaching for Noryx's throat. Noryx sidestepped the attack, his claws flashing as he retaliated, slashing deep into the Aswang's arm. Black blood splattered onto the ground, and the creature screeched in pain, recoiling. Norks pressed the advantage, moving in a blur of motion. His claws raked across the Aswang's chest, tearing through flesh and muscle. The creature staggered back, but its wounds began to heal almost instantly, the torn skin knitting itself back together. The Aswang hissed, its mouth stretching impossibly wide, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. It moved with terrifying speed, launching itself at Norks with renewed fury. The two collided with a thunderous crash, rolling across the jungle floor in a flurry of claws, teeth, and snarls. The Aswang's talons dug into Norks' sides, but the Barkalak king was unfazed. His strength far outmatched the Aswang's, and with a brutal twist he threw the creature off him, sending it crashing into a nearby tree. The Aswang was back on its feet in an instant, but Norks was already upon it. He slammed the creature into the tree with bone-crushing force, his claws digging deep into its abdomen. The Aswang shrieked, its limbs flailing wildly, but Norks held it in place with a savage snarl. The Aswang's tongue lashed out, wrapping around Norks' neck in a desperate attempt to choke him, but Norks didn't falter. With a feral roar, he ripped its claws upward, slicing through the Aswang's body. The creature spasmed, its limbs twitching violently as its black blood poured onto the jungle floor. Norks stepped back, his breath heavy as he watched the Aswang collapse, its body twitching for a few moments longer before finally going still. Alcine, the insect mage, stands poised to face a Kikimora, a creature from Slavic folklore. The Kikimora has a twisted hag-like appearance, with a disheveled, moss-covered body and elongated spider-like limbs. Its eyes glow with malevolent light, and its fingers end in sharp claws. As the Kikimora lunges forward, its claws swiping through the air, Alcine summons her insect-themed magic. She raises her arms, and a swarm of ethereal glowing beetles materializes around her, forming a protective barrier. The Kikimora's claws rake against the barrier, but the beetles' protective magic deflects the attack, their iridescent shells shimmering in the dim light. Alcine counters by commanding the beetles to form into a dense, swirling cloud. She channels her energy, and the cloud coalesces into a massive, luminescent locust. The locust buzzes menacingly before launching itself at the Kikimora with incredible speed. The Kikimora tries to evade, but the locust's powerful wings generate a gust of wind that throws it off balance. Seizing the opportunity, Alcine conjures a series of sharp, insect-like projectiles, each one resembling the stingers of wasps or the spines of beetles. She hurls them at the Kikimora with precision, the projectiles streaking through the air and finding their mark. The Kikimora shrieks as the stingers embed themselves in its flesh, causing dark purplish blood to seep from the wounds. The Kikimora retaliates with a dark misty cloud emanating from its mouth, attempting to engulf Alcine in a suffocating fog. Undeterred, Alcine channels her magic into a counter spell. She raises her hands and summons a swarm of glowing fireflies that dance around her, their light dispersing the mist and revealing the Kikimora's position. With the Kikimora's location exposed, Alcine focuses her magic, transforming a log nearby into a giant shimmering dragonfly. The dragonfly's wings flap with powerful gusts of wind, creating a whirlwind that lifts the Kikimora off the ground. Alcine directs the dragonfly to dive at the suspended creature, its wings slicing through the air with precision. The dragonfly's sharp buzzing wings cut through the Kikimora's defenses, cleanly slicing the creature in half. The swarm of insects around Alcine dissipates, leaving her standing amidst the remnants of the battle, victorious. Bernat faces off against a Wendigo, fearsome creature from Algonquin folklore, known for its insatiable hunger and supernatural strength. The Wendigo stands tall with gaunt, emaciated features, elongated limbs and antlers protruding from its head. Its eyes glint with a predatory gleam as it stalks toward Bernat. Bernat, armed with a gleaming sword and a variety of enchanted weapons, assesses the situation with a calm and calculated demeanor. The Wendigo lets out a guttural roar, breath-causing a chilling mist. It charges at the hunter with surprising speed for its gaunt frame. Bernat quickly reacts, using his agility to dodge the Wendigo's initial swipe of its long claws. He counters with a precise slash of his sword, aiming for the creature's exposed side. The blade cuts through the Wendigo's rotting flesh, eliciting a howl of pain from the beast. However, the Wendigo's resilience is evident as it barely slows down. The Wendigo retaliates with a series of frenzied attacks. Its claws rake through the air so fast that it barely gives the man any time to respond. Bernat expertly parries and dodges, using his sword to deflect the blows while searching for an opening. He makes use of his enchanted sword, the glyphs rearranging with a flash of light, just before igniting into a brilliant flame. The fire scorches the Wendigo's limbs, causing it to recoil momentarily. Seizing the opportunity, Bernat moves in with a series of rapid, precise strikes. His sword slices through the Wendigo's flesh with each swing, carving deep wounds into its gaunt body. The Wendigo snarls in rage and pain, but Bernat remains relentless, pressing the attack. As the Wendigo grows more desperate, it unleashes a powerful burst of icy wind from its maw, attempting to freeze Bernat in place. The hunter rolls away just in time, narrowly avoiding the freezing blast. Bernat retrieves a crossbow from his back and loads it with a silver-tipped arrow, known to be effective against creatures of Therian origin. With steady hands, he aims at the Wendigo's heart and fires. The bolt strikes true, embedding itself deep into the creature's chest. The Wendigo lets out a guttural scream, its movements growing more erratic and sluggish. Despite its wounds, the Wendigo charges once more, driven by a relentless hunger. Bernat, however, is prepared for this. He draws a powerful rune-inscribed dagger and waits for the right moment. As the Wendigo closes in, he plunges the dagger into its heart, activating the enchantment. A burst of radiant energy erupts from the dagger, searing through the Wendigo's body and causing it to convulse in its final moments. Bernat takes a deep breath and wipes his blood-covered blade across his pant leg. I'm sure Alyssa is doing just fine, but I think it would be best for us to regroup. With the number and variety of enemies on this island, chances are high that we will eventually run across something that neither of us will be able to take down alone. It was a clever strategy for the monsters to split us up. Other than the Varkalax, our group was the only one with a numbers advantage over the other combatants. Most of the creatures here are fighting only on behalf of themselves, or one or two other partners. Without our unity, humans are extremely vulnerable to the threats lured to jockey on promises of power. What's your deal, old man? Descarina asks. You seem too slow and tired to be here. Are you trying to recoup some of your past glory? You are strong, but you have poor skill and perception, Michi says. You're only able to see through your eyes. What? Are you implying that I can't sense energy? She laughs. I was still a child when I learned energy control. If your skills were as honed as you believe, you would not be so easily fooled by the image I project. Project? You're saying you're purposely trying to make others see you as weak and helpless? What does that gain you? It lures in prey that is overconfident, Mishi says, slapping his hands together. An earthen wall of stone slams against Descarina from the sides, crushing her. The stone shatters and Descarina leaps to higher ground. Not bad. I didn't take you for a magic user. Mishi throws a hand out, releasing a ball of Aguinestra fire at his opponent. Descarina grins, expanding a rainbow-colored aura that dissipates the spell on contact. Magic negation. Mishi whispers in confusion. What kind of power is that? Descarina grins. I'm full of surprises. The two clash in a battle of hand-to-hand combat. Descarina has greater agility and is more mobile, evading most of Mishi's strikes. Mishi, however, has more physical power, and when his blows manage to connect, they deal more damage. Descarina activates the Fomorian components of her blood, and boosts her own strength, managing to strike her own fist against Mishi's, and causing him to recoil in pain. As Mishi recoils, Descarina pivots and slaps him across the face with her tail. Mishi shakes off the attack and throws a hand out, unleashing another ball of Aguinestra fire. The spell is again negated on contact with the rainbow aura, but Mishi immediately fires a burst of non-magical energy afterwards that is not blocked. Descarina skids back, the energy exploding against her chest. Your aura only blocks magical energy, it seems, Mishi observes. Descarina growls in irritation. It doesn't matter. Your attacks aren't strong enough to hurt me anyway. Oh? Mishi asks. Then do not block this next attack either. Arrogantly, Descarina extends her arms and exposes her chest. Go right ahead. Mishi throws both hands out and consumes the overconfident woman with a massive wave of energy. The energy fades and Descarina stands undamaged, smooth scales covering her skin to protect her from the attack. Damn it, Mishi thinks in frustration. I wasn't holding back. Her defense is incredible. Jake faces off against a formidable creature known as a Joragumo, spider-like yokai from Japanese folklore. The Joragumo, which translates to binding bride, appears as a massive grotesque spider with the upper body of a beautiful woman. Its eyes are multiple, bulging orbs that glisten with malice, and its fangs are long and dripping with venom. Its 8 arachnid arms are all tipped with the sharp, curved claws. When the battle begins with the Joragumo scuttling rapidly across the terrain, its legs creating a rhythmic, eerie clicking sound as it approaches Jake. The creature spins a web of dark, sticky threads from its spinnerets, creating an intricate trap around the area. Jake dashes forward, narrowly avoiding the webbing as it shoots out towards him. With a quick sidestep, he avoids being ensnared and closes the distance between himself and the monstrous arachnid. The Joragumo hisses angrily, its mouth opening wide to reveal its venomous fangs. It lunges at Jake with surprising speed, attempting to bite him with its sharp mandibles. The Jake counters by ducking under the attack and quickly delivering a powerful uppercut to the creature's exposed underbelly. The impact causes the Joragumo to rear back, its legs flailing wildly. Not wasting a moment, Jake grabs a nearby piece of debris, a heavy fallen tree limb, and uses it to swat at the creature's legs. Each strike forces the Joragumo to retract its limbs, momentarily throwing it off balance. The creature screeches in frustration, its spider legs thrashing around in a desperate attempt to regain control. Where's John Goodman when you need him? Jake mutters, dodging the creature's acidic ranged attacks. and equally deadly close-quarters striking legs. The Jorogumo attacks by unleashing a spray of venom from its fangs, aiming to bind and poison Jake. He quickly reacts by diving to the side, narrowly avoiding the corrosive liquid. Using the moment of distraction, Jake lunges at the Jorogumo with a swift, precise strike to one of its legs, causing it to collapse. The Jorogumo's body quivers with a rage as it tries to regrow the damaged limb. It skitters sideways, launching another volley of webbing in an attempt to entangle Jake once more. Jake leaps into the air and rolls through it, using his agility to avoid being trapped. With the Jorogumo's webbing covering the battlefield and its movements becoming more erratic, Jake leaps onto a nearby boulder to gain higher ground and holds one hand down toward the frustrated creature. Grinning, Jake fires a blast of black flame energy at the creature, consuming the Jorogumo and leaving it flailing in agony within the fire. Jake leaps down from the boulder, striking the Jorogumo's head with a powerful blow. The force of the impact shatters the creature's exoskeleton and it collapses, twitching in its final moments. "Nice try, Charlotte," Jake says, nearly out of breath. "For this ain't Mirkwood Forest." Jake's frustration becomes palpable as he hears the grunts and moans of approaching creatures echoing through the dense, chaotic battlefield. The sound of multiple footsteps and the shifting of monstrous forms fills the air, signaling that more danger is closing in. His early victory over the Jorogumo feels hollow as the reality of his situation sets in. He wipes the sweat and grime from his face, his eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of respite. The battlefield around him is a frenzy of combat, with flashes of light and bursts of energy marking the ongoing violence. He takes a deep breath, his hands tightening into fists as he prepares for the next wave of attackers. "Great. Just what I needed," Jake mutters under his breath, his voice barely audible over the cacophony of battle. He glances back at the fallen Jorogumo, its massive spider-like form now lifeless and tangled in its own web. The sight only adds to his growing frustration. He knows that every moment he spends fighting is another moment closer to the next wave of enemies. The grunts and moans grow louder, and Jake can make out the distorted silhouettes of approaching creatures through the smoke and flame. His muscles tense, and he steels himself for the inevitable onslaught. He takes a quick survey of his surroundings, noting any potential cover or advantages that might help him in the oncoming fight. "All right, let's get this over with."